All right, a little bit of an update. We've taken some more stuff off of the bike. We got the front end off, the triple clamps, the forks. We got the wheels right back there. We got the wiring harness there. That's definitely something I have to tackle soon. But I wanted to get onto some fun stuff. So I have the pipe here, and the plan is to cut a solid 3 or 4 inches off the back. Just trying to make this thing a little bit more sleek, a little bit more of a shorty. But I also have this baby bench vise that I got from Harbor Freight. So that's gonna definitely help along with this project, as well as that bench grinder. So it'll help clean up parts. So for now, luckily these bolts, they're actually Allen heads, they're not riveted in. So it'll be easy enough to just take these off, pull the cap out, pull the core out, mark how much I want to cut. I'll cut that, re-drill new holes, and then cut the quarter length too, so everything fits. This one is nice because this is forestry approved, and it does have the spark arrestor in it. So I do want to run this. I just don't like how long it is. I think it'll look a lot more proportional, and it won't stick out as far as the rear fender like it currently does. All right, so this is as far as we got. I got the end cap off, which this guy fought me all the way, and I failed taking the rest of the spark arrestor screen off. You can see I tried to pull from here, which was a mistake. So what I'm gonna end up doing is I'm gonna mark my line where I'm gonna cut. I'll make that cut, and then I should be able to just pound it out from the inside once I can get inside there and put a screwdriver on the lip of the screen there. So I'll have to somehow figure out how to make a new screen, or see if there's replacement screens for these guys. I might just try to DIY it and just use the ring that's in here and just get a new screen insert and just JB weld it in or something like that. And then, you know, drill the new holes further up here, put the screen and the end cap back on, and then clean her up and see if I can find either a new one of these plates to rivet on, or possibly even just a sticker, make it look nice and pretty. And of course I'll be repacking it and making this thing look nice and modern, hopefully. All right, I think I've marked my line decently. It's perfect, perfect 4 inches around. So this will be my cut line just on the inside of this tape. Or you can see I cut this section off and I was able to slip this off the end. But it's kind of looking like I turned a perfectly functioning muffler into not that. So I'm now finding out that these rivets will have to come out. I was thinking it was going to be as easy as taking the screws off of the end cap and the entire baffle would come out. But I think I have to pop out these rivets because nothing on this end wants to budge. So unless it's super rusted on, but it just seems like my solution is at the back end here. And I've done a 2-stroke, you know, I've rebuilt 2-stroke mufflers before, and it was also an FMF one that I did, and it all came out at the end. So kind of learning the hard way that that's not the case with this one, but we will eventually get there. All right, so now the trouble I'm having is, you know, this end, the spark arrestor end, please excuse that, is attached to this ring, which gets, you know, the end cap gets bolted to that. And this flange end is giving me crap because as I try to beat it through this side, I think it's expanding the packing, which is already packed pretty tight, and it just doesn't want to go through. So I'm gonna give it another go, try to pound it through. But I think ultimately what I'm gonna do is, since it doesn't make sense to cut the core from this end because I'll have to re-weld it back on, is I'll measure that 4 inches that I cut off the length of this guy, and I'll take it from this end I don't think that it's that important that I have this flared end, because this piece should fit nice and snugly around the outlet pipe here. I think I'd probably need to measure that again, or inside, maybe it fits inside. But so what I'm thinking I can do is cut the core out, and then I'll just do, you know, hammer it in how it is. I don't know if you can see, but it's kind of flared in on this inside core piece. And I think from there, I can pull this guy out, repack it, make all the cuts that I need to cut, clean it back up, and, you know, make sure my measurements are right. So this guy fits nicely inside this guy. I don't think that this is necessary, so I'm gonna be removing that. And maybe I'll just put a little bit of gasket sealer or something inside there, so that when it mates up with there, kind of holds it in place and it doesn't like rattle around. I think that's the direction I need to go in. It's kind of a bummer because I thought this was going to be easy, and you guys are learning in real time that I'm struggling with it. So learn from my mistakes, or just at least know in the future that this may be what you have to go through. So the exhaust project is kind of going on the back burner, moving on to some other stuff. Checking out the countershaft splines here. They look to be in good condition, which is a great sign for these XRs. Also cleaning up some of the hardware, so I'm putting some of it in a Ziploc bag so I don't lose it, cutting holes in the bag, and then throwing it in my simple green solution there. Also took off the swing arm in the rear shock, which I will be replacing with another shock later on. Yeah, I got some axles in there. I got the kickstand and some of the other exhaust components, just soaking so some of that grease and dirt from over the years loosens up and isn't too much work to take off. I skipped a few steps, but you can see we've made some significant progress. I'm just about ready to take the motor out of the frame, and I'll just kind of run you guys up to speed on what I've done. So everything's pretty much disconnected. A couple more things, the foot peg mount, and I think I am going to end up taking off the oil lines that go into the engine. There's a couple other things attached onto it, but I don't think they're super important to take off at the moment. I guess I'll figure it out as I go. But pretty stripped down. And then we got my cut down FMF muffler. I cut 4 inches off of that guy. Let's see where the insert is. Where is this guy? So here's the core. I also cut 4 inches off this guy and kind of bent over the outside so that it fits into the outlet from, I guess, I don't know if you'd call this the mid pipe, but this is the part that attaches to the back of the exhaust. Kind of picture it there. So I think I got all my measurements right with the cutting. Of course, I need to clean it up, polish that guy up, polish up the end cap, get new muffler packing, drill new holes, and rivet it all back together. So should be pretty solid. What else we got? Carburetor's all taken apart in this bag. I'm gonna have to get new jets because they're pretty marred up from the previous owner or whoever took them out last. And then I'm gonna get new diaphragms too because they're looking kind of rough. That's kind of where we're at now. So hopefully the next clip, you're gonna see this engine out. It's really not much to it, right? We have an engine mount up here, down here, one right there, down in the back there, and then this guy here, kind of tough to see, but ton of engine mounts to hold this big puppy in there. So crack all those loose, lay it on its side, and we'll go from there. See if I can wrestle these two things apart. Got the frame stripped all the way down. Everything is off that guy. Motor over there. Still not sure if I'm gonna tear into the top end there or not. You know, obviously I'm gonna do valves, and yeah, I'm probably gonna tear into the top end. Just to at least inspect the piston, inspect the cylinder, the valves, timing chain, make sure everything's looking good, and replace things if need be. But for now, I think the next step is gonna be clean this up because this thing is pretty gunked up. You know, there's parts that I'm planning on cutting off of the frame that I'm just not gonna be utilizing for the battery box. Some extra mounts and stuff that I just don't need. And then that guy needs the deep cleaning too. And then once I get this guy sprayed back up, I don't know if I'm gonna do it in white or maybe silver like the more recent models are silver. I do like the silver in red of the like the mid 2000s. I think they did it up until the 2020s, and then they, you know, switched over to the white graphics. But still not sure what color I'm gonna go with the frame, but I guess this was kind of the hard part, and the fun kind of begins now, because now everything kind of just gets cleaned up and put back together. So that's where we're at. I'll kind of show you guys the condition of the frame. Really no surprises. It's just really dirty. You know, some spots with some rust, but nothing crazy. Nothing that I can't clean up and repaint. A lot of muck down there where the chain goes. But yeah, it looks pretty clean. You know, some of the stuff that I was talking about getting rid of is the helmet mount, the blinker mounts here, these pieces for the battery box. The smog equipment gets mounted to these brackets, so these will be gone. And then, you know, I don't know if I'm gonna be reutilizing a lot of those clip-on wire holders, or if I'm just gonna be using black zip ties, because those clips are kind of a pain, and I don't know if I feel like reusing them and buying new ones. So these little like nipples, I might just leave them on. I guess it doesn't really hurt to keep them on, but that's where we're at. All right, so we got the pipe pretty much put back together. I decided to put rivets on the cap end in lieu of the bolts, just because I had marred up the threads for the cap. So we got rivets in there, we got rivets in the rear. I am going to tape this off and repaint this section with that flat black grill paint, just because I beat it up a little bit using the mallet to put this tail section back in. So I'm gonna tape this off, repaint this, clean this guy back up a little bit, see if I can't get it looking a tad better. But that's pretty much done. New packing, the cores in there, everything ended up lining up, so hopefully it doesn't sound too bad. If it does, then I'll probably end up getting an XRs only, or maybe even a new Power Core 4, if this doesn't sound too good. I did end up getting a rivet gun for this. This one was from Home Depot, Aero brand. I was a little bit more intimidated by the rivet gun than I shouldn't have been, or than I should have been. Super easy to use, pretty nice tool. I'm glad I picked that up. And then now, moving on to the swing arm. So I spent some time cleaning this up with Simple Green and a brush. I still have a little bit of work to do. First, I'm gonna end up cutting off these tabs. These mount that plastic chain guard, and then this is the support for the plastic chain guard. So this, I'm gonna be cutting this off, grinding it down, and then cutting this off and grinding it down flush. And then once I get done with that, then I'll do some extra work with a Scotch-Brite pad, trying to shine this up. I'm still trying to figure out if I'm going to replace the linkage in the swing arm and in the linkage, replace the bearings in the swing arm and the bearings in the linkage as well. I probably will end up doing that. I'll pick up, Tusk has a tool for pulling and pressing in these bearings, so I'll probably end up picking that stuff up in order to do that job. But this is coming along nicely. And then down here, I also picked up a little flux core welder from Harbor Freight and a mask and some gloves, so that I can do the frame supports and the steering stop up front. So probably in the next couple of weeks here, I'll attack those items. I gotta, learn how to weld and do some practice before I put anything on the frame. Might have a friend assist me with that too. But so once those items are welded on, I'll do the final cleaning of the frame, start painting that up. And then from there, I think the first thing I'll probably do is get the rear suspension back on. I'll get the forks back on and the wheels. I spent a little bit of time cleaning this up, and I learned that this is actually a Warp 9. It's a cush drive hub, so that'll help so I don't eat up these sprockets too badly. And that's, I think it's a $600 or $700 wheel, just that guy alone. And then the rear, or excuse me, the front wheel, it is a stock CRF hub laced to a DID Dirt Star rim. So a pretty decent setup. I wish they were silver, but I think I'm gonna end up running the black for a while before I decide to upgrade the rims. But yeah, so suspension on, wheels on, that way it's the roller. And then I'll finish cleaning up the engine, probably tearing into that and taking off the head just so that it's a little easier once I do push that back in the frame. I got to clean up all the mounts, clean up all the bolts. And then I guess after that, tackle the wiring harness, but should go pretty smooth once I get this thing back on its own wheels. Oh, that was easy. So we got these two top tabs cut off and ground down. This one I didn't grind all the way down, but it's out of the way. It's a little tricky to get down there, and honestly I don't think it's worth the effort, so I'm happy with that. A couple other things I need to address. Obviously I need these brake hose guides, clamps, whatever you want to call them. I do have a new chain slider that'll be going on, and then I have a rotor guard that I had made, so that's going to go on. And now I just really need to hit this with some Scotch-Brite. At some point I'll do the needle bearings, but it's looking good so far.